I'm on a roll, so I'm going to keep going. Yes. Just want to get through this book of Jeremiah. So repetitious, so boring. Don't know what God he's talking about here, but okay. Uh, I saw one today, and it's this woman, beautiful, beautiful woman, is making a video on how offensive it is in a way that on how she's being asked, "Oh, you guys still live in huts in Africa?" And she goes on about that, and I watched it just to see. Okay, well, what's this video about, really, when it comes down to it? What's wrong with asking, "You guys still live in huts? How's that going?" Right? And and in a way, she says, "Yes, we still live in huts," because she behind her is this looks like really beautifully created clay hut or something with the thatched roof, and I'm going, well. Why don't you say on how that works? Well, she kind of mentions on how what's wrong with living like that still, right? Well, uh, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? Different cultures, this and that. I don't know. One is not allowed to be interested anymore. I'm not sure on why she would perceive that when people ask questions about that, why not graciously answer regardless, right? Yes, and teach the people about, hey, we have evolved a little bit, and we there is products available now to make it look nicer or this or that. I don't know, and um, instead of getting offended by something that's part of their culture, been for a long time, and they've been able to keep up that culture. I'm sure they're great houses, whatever they are. Right? I don't know that. I know that in the way that housing has developed in certain other countries. Now, remember in Switzerland, I was a teenager. We had this just unbelievable, unbelievable windstorm, and it you could literally stand there and you like this, and you were lifted up. That's how strong the winds were. I lived in a 400-year-old house. Oh, it was beautiful. It had these low ceilings and all these little rooms, and beautiful. It was just beautiful. I loved living there. But a 400-year-old house, it had a clay tiles for the roof, and we lost about 30 tiles. 30 tiles came down. It didn't hit anybody. We were smarter than that, than to stand right under the roof like that. But there were numerous houses, brand new homes, where the whole roof was just blown off. Whole roofs just woof on new homes. Yeah, okay, that's right. Development right there, right? Anyway, so this woman talks about that, and I'm listening. I'm going, what is your problem? I didn't, I ended up not commenting on it because it's like, man, complain about it, this or that. It was just about complaining on how other people supposedly are seeing her culture or her where she grew up in Africa, right? Yes. Now, I'm like, well, first of all, why don't you go after the people who make documentaries showing on how bush people still live? I've never heard anybody say, wow, look at them savages or this or that. Never seen that. People appreciate it. Wow, they still live like this. And I have learned some things, like for water preservation, this, that. I learned things from people who still live like that. Decide to still live like that. Okay? Just saying. But here she makes it a big old complaint. For what exactly? Instead of teaching the people. Yes? Even the ones that may or may not be offensive about asking questions. And here it is. I wanted to go in and say, hey, I live in the Kentucky mountains. I lived there for a long time. And when I come down into the more uh, when it come from the mountains down into the cities, this and that, and people say, oh, because of the accent that I have a weird accent of different places. Oh, so where do you live? Oh, I live in Leslie County in Kentucky. And they look at my feet to see if I'm wearing shoes. Right? Yes? And I've been told, I said, hey, watch, people still do that. They will look at your feet if you tell them where you come from, if you're wearing shoes. Now, I love to walk barefoot, so actually they could catch me without shoes. Well, anyway, on. So, what, I'm going to go and complain about it? Well, no, not. I can't help it if some people are silly out there. Yes? Well, so be it. Anyway, I thought I mentioned that. I watched that video. I'm going, what a complainer. About what? And then she has food in her hands that I'm not sure what it was and why she had that in her hands, but she took a tiny little, I'm going, how are you going to talk with food in your mouth now? Well, anyway, and then I saw her just kind of discarding it. Suddenly she didn't have anything in her hands. I'm going, wow, what was that all about? You know? Anyway, just saying. Beautiful young lady. But the complaints she's throwing out there are not making any sense to me. Just saying. There. Done. Okay, let's get going here. Talk for 6 minutes already. We are in the book of Jeremiah 22. Prophecies against various kings against Jehoiahaz. Do not weep for the man who is dead. Do not raise the dirge for him. Weep rather for the one who has gone away, since he will never come back, never see his native land again. For this is what Yahweh has said about Shallum, son of Josiah, king of Judah, who succeeded Josiah his father and was forced to leave this place. He will never come back to it, but will die in the place to which he has been taken captive, and he will never see this country again. Against Jehoiakim. Disaster for the man who builds his house without uprightness, his upstairs rooms without fair judgment, who makes his fellow man work for nothing without paying him his wages, who says, I shall build myself a spacious palace with airy upstairs rooms, who makes windows in it, panels it with cedar, and paints it vermilion. Are you more of a king because of your passion for cedar? Did your father go hungry or thirsty? But he did what is just and upright, so all went well for him. He used to examine the cases of poor and needy, then all went well. Is not that what it means to know me? Yahweh demands. You, on the other hand, have eyes and heart for nothing but your own interests, for shedding innocent blood and perpetrating violence and oppression. That is why Yahweh says this about Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah. No lamenting for him, my poor brother, my poor sister, no lamenting for him. His poor lordship, his poor majesty, he will have a donkey's funeral, dragged away and thrown out of the gates of Jerusalem. Okay. Well, again, it's the negative. I don't know, I wasn't there. But I tell you, there's something here. It says, he used to, I'm assuming Josiah, used to examine the cases of poor and needy, then all went well. Well, okay, so here's the thing. What I found, and it is in today's world the same thing. Who do the laws apply to, actually? The commoner. Yes? The poor schmuck. Yes? But when it comes to the higher uppers, people with money, so much money they can buy a courtroom. Yes? And then have the judgment go in their favor. Not according to law, but in their favor. Yes? All the stuff committed, the crimes and sins committed, right, in the upper layers of society, they get just shoveled under the rug. Yes? It doesn't matter how much attention it gets. There will be found a way to make it go away. That's amazing. Hence, guess what? Guess who then suffers under these conditions? Oh, the poor and the needy. The commoner. Huh? That's what it is. How often does it talk about fair judgment in here? What does that actually mean? I had an interesting conversation with my son-in-law here yesterday. If I remember at the end of this, we'll talk about it. There wouldn't be any poor and needy per se if judgment was fair at all times and people regarded as equal to each other at all times. That's the ideal. Of course, the ideal doesn't exist yet. Okay, against Jehoiakim, climb the Lebanon range and shriek. Raise your voice in Bashan, shriek from the Abarim, for all your lovers have been ruined. I spoke to you in your prosperity, but you said, I will not listen. From your youth, this has been how you behaved. Refusing to listen to my voice, the wind will shepherd all your shepherds away, and your lovers will go into captivity. Then you will blush deep with shame at the thought of all your wickedness. You who have made the Lebanon your home and made your nest among the cedars, how will you groan when anguish overtakes you? Pangs like those of a woman in labor. Again, mentioned that, like he knows. As I live, Yahweh declares, even if Coniah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet ring on my right hand, I would still wrench you off. I shall hand you over to those determined to kill you, to those you dread, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to the Chaldeans. I shall hurl you and the mother who bore you into another country. You were not born there, but you will both die there. They will not return to the country to which they desperately long to return. Is he a shoddy broken pot, this man Coniah, a crock that no one wants? Why are he and his offspring ejected, hurled into a country they know nothing of? O land, 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 listen to the word of Yahweh. Yahweh says this, list this man as childless, a man who made a failure of his life, since none of his offspring will succeed in occupying the throne of David or ruling in Judah again. Okay, so what? Is this, it's all just rest again. What are the commoners going to do when you have kings like that? Right? Again, how come Jeremiah isn't letting the people know, why did you want a king? Look on where they end up and how they end up. And the result trickles down to the commoners. Yes? Why not? Why is Jeremiah just condemning the kings and saying, well, this is what Yahweh says about them, which I already know, Heavenly Parent wouldn't do that. Why not say, look what happened? I'm telling you again, as a prophet. Or I need to tell you as a prophet, you need to get rid of the kings. Why are you so hooked on these kings that are no good? None of them has ever been any good or followed God's guidance. That happens to be true. Yes? Just saying. Alright. I'm going to put two. I have time. Oh, that's a long one. Let's do it. 23. Messianic prophecies, the future king. Disaster for the shepherds who lose and scatter the sheep of my pasture, Yahweh declares. This, therefore, is what Yahweh, God of Israel, says about the shepherds who shepherd my people. You have scattered my flock. What did I just say beforehand about the kings? You have driven them away and have not taken care of them. Right, I shall take care of you for your misdeeds, Yahweh declares. But the remnant of my flock I myself shall gather from all the countries where I have driven them, and bring them back to their folds. They will be fruitful and increase in numbers. For them I shall raise up shepherds to shepherd them and pasture them. No fear, no terror for them any more. Not one shall be lost, Yahweh declares. Wow. I guess Jeremiah didn't know about World War II. Just saying. This, according to today's time, is not true, did not come true. So again, that's our God. This is how God is. telling a bunch of lies? I'm just saying. Let's beware what we believe here in the Bible coming from our heavenly parent. Yes? That's all I'm saying. Look, the days are coming, Yahweh declares, when I shall raise an upright branch for David. He will reign as king and be wise, doing what is just and upright in the country. And here he goes, again, advertising another king. Instead of whom? Oh. In his days, Judah will triumph and Israel will live in safety. And this is the name he will be called. Yahweh is our saving justice. So look, the days are coming, Yahweh declares, when people will no longer say, as Yahweh lives, who brought the Israelites out of Egypt, but as Yahweh lives, who led back and brought home the offspring of the house of Israel from the land of the north and all the countries to which he had driven them to live on their own soil. Again under another king, though. Attract against the false prophets, on the prophets. My heart is broken within me. I tremble in all my bones. I am like a drunken man, like a man overcome with wine, because of Yahweh and his holy words. For the country is full of adulterers, yes, because of a curse. The country is in mourning, and the pasturage in the desert has dried up. They are prompt to do wrong, make no effort to do right. Yes, even prophet and priest are godless. I've detected their wickedness in my own house, Yahweh declares. Because of this, their ways will prove treacherous going for them. In the darkness where they are driven, there they will fall. For I shall bring disaster on them, and when the year for punishing them comes, Yahweh declares, in the prophets of Samaria I have seen insanity. They prophesied in the name of Baal, and led my people Israel astray. But in the prophets of Jerusalem I have seen something horrible, adultery, persistent lying, such abetting of the wicked, that no one renounces his wickedness. To me they are all like Sodom, and its inhabitants are like Gomorrah. So this is what Yahweh Sabaoth says about the prophets. Oh. Now I shall give them wormwood to eat, and make them drink poisoned water, since from the prophets of Jerusalem godlessness has spread throughout the land. Yahweh Sabaoth says this, do not listen to what those prophets prophesy to you. They are deluding you, they retail visions of their own, and not what comes from Yahweh's mouth. Well, that's interesting. Jeremiah said this. It's interesting. It doesn't say that Jeremiah actually said this. I wonder if this came from another prophet. Huh. Also, we're still in the confessions of... Okay. But who has been present in Yahweh's counsel and seen and heard his word? Who has paid attention to his word and listened to it? Look, Yahweh's hurricane, his wrath bursts out, a fearsome hurricane, to burst on the heads of the wicked. Yahweh's anger will not withdraw until he has performed, has carried out what he has in mind in the final days. You will understand this clearly. I did not send these prophets, yet they ran. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. Had they been present in my counsel, they could have proclaimed my words to my people and turned them from their evil ways and from the wickedness of their deeds. Am I a God when near, Yahweh demands, and not a God when far away? Can anyone hide somewhere secret without my seeing him? Yahweh demands. Do I not fill heaven and earth? Yahweh demands. Wow, this is a really interesting one right here. I have heard what the prophets say who make their lying prophecies in my name. I have had a dream, they say. I have had a dream. How long are there to be those among the prophets who prophesy lies and are in fact prophets of their own delusions? Well, Jeremiah, I happen to think you're one of them too. They are doing their best by means of the dreams that they keep telling each other to make my people forget my name, just as their ancestors forgot my name in favor of Baal. Let the prophet who has had a dream tell it for a dream, and let him who receives a word from me deliver my word accurately. What have straw and wheat in common? Yahweh demands. Is my word not like fire? Yahweh demands. Is it not like a hammer shattering a rock? So then I have a quarrel with the prophets, Yahweh declares, that steal my words from one another. I have a quarrel with the prophets, Yahweh declares, who wag their tongues to utter prophecies. I have a quarrel with the prophets who make prophecies out of lying dreams, Yahweh declares, who recount them and lead my people astray by their lies and their bragging. I certainly never sent them or commissioned them, and they serve no good purpose of this people, Yahweh declares. And when this people or a prophet or a priest asks you, what is Yahweh's burden? You must answer, you are the burden, and I shall get rid of you, Yahweh declares. As for the prophet, the priest, or anyone else who says, Yahweh's burden, I shall punish that man and his household too. This is what you must say to one another, among yourselves. What answer has Yahweh given? Or what has Yahweh said? But stop using the expressions Yahweh's burden, for what each man says will be his own responsibility. And you twist the words of the living God, of Yahweh Sabaoth our God. This is the way to speak to a prophet. What answer has Yahweh given? Or what has Yahweh said? But if you say Yahweh's burden, then Yahweh says this, since you use the expression Yahweh's burden, when I have warned you to stop saying Yahweh's burden, believe me, I shall pick you up and fling you from my presence. You and the city I gave to you and to your ancestors, I shall bring down everlasting shame on you, everlasting and unforgettable disgrace. All right, well, I would say that the last part, I really like this part. I'm going to have to mark this one. I really like this part, except for the last part. Wow, this was like a tirade. The last part to me is once the people come to their senses, when one suddenly realizes, whoa, what have I been listening to? What have I been saying to myself? What have I been supporting? That is when one suddenly realizes one's own destruction. Yes? It's very sad. Then the long climb to restore things start. It's a long climb. But well worth it. Yes? Okay. And I can't remember what I said before. What I was going to talk about. I forgot it. Which just means I didn't need to mention it. All right. This is a good time to stop here. Ugh, I feel like even though I did make 2 videos today, right? I'm only on 24. Ugh. Why is this taking so long? It's like dragging on. I know, I'm lamenting, right? Yes? Okay, well, we're doing this. Again, I would like to remind everyone as a condition for the reputation of our Heavenly Parent and also to help our beloved true Father restore some of the things that, yeah, you know what? It's a rough road when you're doing most of it on your own, trying to figure it out and everybody looking at you. And what are we going to do next? Right? Yes? And trying to figure out everything on their own. Father has done many things that it was okay. Where he was born, the culture he grew up with, yes, and then trying to figure out, okay, I know I need to do this. How am I going to do that? I feel like sometimes you're reading this Bible. I know I'm not always right. Okay, I don't have it all right. I didn't know any of these people personally. I get some inklings from Spirit World where, yeah, they hang their head and going, oh, we got it now. We've been in Spirit World long enough. We know. We know what went wrong. We know what we said wrong. We got it now. And again, thank you for helping us restore that. But it's again also sometimes a hit and miss. I know that. I know that too. And all I can hope for is that I will be forgiven if I said something wrong or given the wrong guidance. Yes, where my heart to mind may not always be in the right place. And often what gets in the way is my own anger. Yes? Oh. Uh, all right, all right. So this came to my mind when I talked about that. And I think that father struggled a little bit with that as well, right? Knowing on how sometimes he treated members, this and that. I never killed anyone, but just saying. Uh, I was a very quiet child. I've already talked about my childhood enough in the other videos. But I could get due to the absence of justice and fairness, I could get very angry. Very angry. I could go from 0 to 110 in seconds. And my whole being just wanted to grab something, lash out at something. And I believe it had to do with some of the things that happened in my ancestry, with especially my father, but also in my mother's lineage, where I carried some of that burden. Not God's burden. That's not God's burden. That's my burden as a child of my parents. And one of them was to resolve that anger and make it into a teaching tool rather than holding a gun in my hand, wanting to hold a knife and a gun in my hands and giving some people their due. To transform that into a teaching tool. Not the gun and the knife, but to use a book, my heart to mind connected to my heavenly parent, and use that sense for justice and to teach the people, rather take things into my own hands and decide who gets to live or not. Do you know what I mean? And that is restoring some of what my ancestors have done to other people. If I can resist that anger, if I can channel that anger, even if it is for injustice, into a different direction and have it become a teaching tool, right? Yes, then I become successful in restoring sins in my ancestry. Do you understand that? It's part of the divine principle, and I loved that. After I found out, after I read these parts, given these parts, which, again, True Father gave to us through his studying of the Bible and I don't know what else, and then putting it together and say, oh, many of us now, as children of our parents and grandparents, our lineages, is that we carry the burdens of restoring something that was negative towards other people. We've got to figure out on how to make a positive, transform, right? A positive, transform it into a positive.